Excellent. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name's Joe McCanta. I'm the global ambassador for Grey Goose, and I wanted to first off welcome the cast of Disobedience. It's so lovely to have you as a part of Cocktails and Conversations, and thankfully the Toronto weather is cooperating with us. Just a quick little bit about what this is all about. Grey Goose has been actually around for 20 years. It's our 20th anniversary this year. And for the last 10 years, we've been hosting some of the best celebrations in film, from LA to London to Cannes to even here in beautiful Toronto. And we wanted to actually see if we could do a little bit more to forge conversations around really important films, which this certainly is. So we hope that this offers some meaningful discussions, and we want to welcome everyone. And I'll hand it over to our wonderful host here, Joe Utiki, who's going to be the moderator for the discussions. And cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very, very much, Joe. Listen, let me start by welcoming our panel by name. From right, we have Rachel McAdams, who plays Esty in the film. We have the film's producer and star, Rachel Weisz, who plays Ronit. We have Sebastian Lelio, the director. And we have Alessandro Nivola, Orbit. And what struck you about it?
I loved the book because...
Thing about kind of Orthodox Judaism in the UK, or was that something that came through the book and through researching?
Yeah, I really don't... It's a very private community. I mean, you have to really be part of it or be invited into their homes, which Rachel McAdams and Alessandro did in their research. I didn't really have to research that because my characters abandoned it, but you guys really immersed yourselves in it. But yeah, they're a very private community, so I didn't know much about it either.
And I must ask how Sebastian became involved, because had you seen his previous work? I mean, what made you think that he would be the right director for this?
I saw Gloria, and I thought it was just one of the most astonishing films I've ever seen. A female character that normally in a film would probably be the auntie or the granny, and it might have a couple of lines. And Sebastian put this woman, her sexuality...
It was automatic.
Well, tell us a little bit more about that, Sebastian.
It was automatic.
Yeah.
No. I loved the
characters in this story. For audiences who won't have read the book, there are elements of kind of misdirection when you're learning about who they are and what's happened, that kind of play along very interesting lines. You know, there's a kind of a heteronormative idea that maybe there was something between Rachel Weisz's character and Alessandro's character in the past, and slowly that becomes, you reveal the truth in the film. How difficult was it to balance, what you say and what you kind of imply in the film?
Well, film is all about...
Rachel, other Rachel. I wonder if I can ask about... I wonder if I can ask about Esty and what you made of her when you first read the script.
Well, like Rachel, I kind of fell in love with all three characters equally in a way, and was just so taken with.
Let me ask about, Rachel touched on it earlier, the research that you did and the people that you met in this community. I wonder if you could talk about that, and maybe Alessandro, you can add to that as well.
Had grown up from that point on as a modern woman and as a lapsed Jew. And when I told a friend of mine at the school that I was going to play a rabbi, they said, "Oh, well, you know who you have to meet." And so I went to meet her, and that was my sort of entree in. And she, by this time, 20 years later, had sort of reconciled with her family. They all lived in Crown Heights in a Hasidic Lubavitch neighborhood. And she started taking me over there and introducing me to all of her family. And after a sort of period of suspicion, slowly they started inviting me in. And by the
I mean, you know, once you wear the beard and the clothes, it must get hard to recognize yourself in the mirror with this character.
Yeah, the beard got longer and longer as we were filming. I think in the beginning it was about half as long as it was by the end. I've always, been grateful for roles where I had the opportunity to change the way that I look, because it makes it a lot easier to not be self-conscious and not feel that you're sort of hampered by.
Listen, I'd love to bring the audience into the conversation. Do we have a question right here, I think?
Hello. I feel that this movie is pretty timely now, given the political climate in the U.S., and there's a rise in homophobia, in anti-Semitism. So I was wondering if any of you thought about that as you're going into the making of this film.
And one in the second row, I believe.
Hi, I have a question for Sebastian. I know this is one of your first films, or the first film that's filmed outside Chile, and I was wondering what filming in New York and London and various other locations, if that influenced your approach to filming, if it changed the way you see things on set.
It wasn't difícil, it was difficult.
Well, actually, a question for the answers, for the actors. Maybe you can embarrass this man here and talk about how you found him as a collaborator.
You don't have to. I would go to Rachel's room to talk about the scene that we were about to do, and she would go.
Found the relationship with one another, because it's at times incredibly intimate in the film, and clearly you come from different kind of approaches. I wonder if you could talk about that.
I think I didn't know about this, the backstage, in that we just did it. We just kind of did it and tried again. And Sebastian was very detailed. He would be very detailed about trying something seemingly tiny. Don't you think, like a tiny thing?
Like a bit of choreography almost, and it was like a dance, and we were just following along in step, like we knew the dance kind of, but it was so easy. That's a word that just keeps coming to mind. There was just a real ease to it, and I think because maybe you read the script and you think this is going to be hard, like this is tough stuff, and every day I would think that, and then at the end of the day I'd be like, that was so great. I'll see you tomorrow. So easy. So, and I think, we talked in the beginning just about, I think we had each other's backs too, that we both had very different journeys we were on, and sometimes we were so separate as characters, but never felt that way as actors, for me.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. We really had each other's back. And that's a form of love, I guess. And a form of love that they've all three loved each other since they were very small children, it was as other Rachel says, should have been very challenging, but it was the actual work just came really. We were standing backstage last night before we went on to introduce the film, and I just said to Rachel, I couldn't have done it with anyone else because you just made it so easy. She was such a joy to work with. Yeah.
Well, feelings mutual. Yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
Then I have to add that then I went to Alessandro's room.
I want to know what happened in there.
And Alessandro would go, listen, I think we have to do this. So that
Actors,
that's what I was dealing with. It was great.
And what did you say?
Okay.
Our next question, I think, is on this side of the room.
And Wakefield from AARP. This question is for Alessandro. I think we follow the journey going and why, and but I found your character very intriguing because I think for most of the film, we believe him to be something that in the end he turns out not to be. So I wonder, how did you approach your character?